My 26F sister, 28F, says I need to stop resenting my mother for exploiting me when I was younger. Long story short, I was born with a disability. My mother exploited this by telling me that I really should be on pain medication, which she got me hooked on for 6 years. She did this so that she could have a source to also feed her own addiction, as I did not take everything I was prescribed. I was a teenager when this happened, and when I became an adult I started to push back on this. I told her I wanted to get off the medication, and she would call me a selfish bee that didn't care about her or her pain. When I was 20 I was working part-time and attending university. I lived with my mother and stepdad, but they didn't offer me financial support at the time. At one point I even asked my mother for money to help cover half of my cell phone bill after I had been off work for a month after surgery. She told me that if I wanted the money I would need to give her pain medication. I didn't really have a lot of options, and she was also my caretaker at the time. Shortly after I found a letter in the mail addressed to my guardian which had my mother listed. I thought, that's weird, as I have no mental/intellectual reason for needing a guardian, and opened the letter. I found out my mom had been taking out disability in my name for years without my knowledge. It also just makes me think back to when I was needing a very small amount of money after being off work for my disability, and my mother made me give her my medication. My mother has also done a lot of other not so nice things, like leaving my sisters and I with a babysitter for days with no one knowing where she was, constant lies and affairs. There is so much more that I just can't add here. My two sisters, 28F and 21F, make me feel like I should not resent my mother. They say she is so hurt by my decision to become more distant from them in the past few years. Still, she had never called me to even acknowledge what she has done. My sisters seem to embrace the dysfunctional lifestyle and even spent Thanksgiving with my mother and her boyfriend. She is still married to my stepdad. My sisters just have a different relationship with my mother, and I would say she didn't exploit them in the same way at all growing up. I hate feeling this resentment towards my mother, as I know it is not healthy for me, but I just don't think she's a good person. It's so complicated because I both love and hate my family. I went to 2 years of therapy, and honestly I improved a lot from that. I have much better communication with my boyfriend, better self-esteem, etc., but my family is something I just can't seem to get over. My boyfriend has a very supporting and loving family, so I don't think he understands. He says my family is your family and you should be over it by now. Also, my sister has been pressuring me to do more to forgive my mother, but my mother has done nothing to deserve my forgiveness. Yeah, you are totally entitled to feel how you do towards her, and any forgiveness should be for your sake, not hers. And it doesn't mean you should forget about or have a relationship with her if you do. Your boyfriend probably can't understand why you feel this way towards your mother, because normal mothers don't do what she did. She committed fraud for her own addiction and got you involved as well. This is not the kind of person who can feel sorry in the normal sense, and is probably most upset that she can't use you to claim disability or get access to pain meds. Please don't let them get to you. She doesn't deserve a relationship with you. I don't get how even your boyfriend sees and pressure you to forgive your mom. Your feelings are perfectly valid and reasonable. You are the one who decides when you are over it, nobody else. And if that takes time, so be it. The things your mom has done are major things which for me personally would be enough to entirely cut contact without a second thought. Anyway, as you stated that this resentment affects you badly, I hope you can find a way to solve this. May it be through forgiveness or through erasing this person from your life. There's a phrase that's being thrown around the internet lately: no unity without accountability. What you experienced was abuse, plain and simple. She is not remorseful and never has been, so she does not take any accountability for it. You literally can't have a healthy relationship with someone like that. You're not deficient because you lack the ability to ignore abuse from someone who would absolutely continue to abuse you if they had more access to you. You're reacting exactly as most people would in your situation. Your siblings don't get a vote here. They grew up in a different reality than you did. You should be over it by now. What a dick. Doesn't sound very supportive. I would report her to Social Security. She committed fraud, And since she was receiving money in your name, you could potentially get in trouble too. Go no contact and report her. Let them figure out the rest. You don't owe them anything. Took care of the disability stuff years ago. I went to Social Security and became my own guardian. I moved into an apartment to get away from my mother, and when my living expenses increased, most of the overpay that incurred was cancelled out. Also, there was some time I was not working because of surgeries. I honestly could still very much use the medical benefits and would probably qualify as an underpaid grad student, but I'd rather not deal with Social Security until I have to again. I am just foregoing needed care to not deal with the headache. My fiancé wants to name our son after her brother who died in a car accident while drunk driving. As the title says, my fiancé, F33, wants to name our son after her brother who died while driving under the influence. He was 19 at the time of the fatal accident and she was 17. I know they were really close as kids and I can't imagine the pain of losing a sibling. I just can't get past naming our kid after someone who has died in this way for obvious reasons, but one main reason I will explain below. I have told her that I would like to name our son after my dad. He is not my biological father but has raised me like his own since I was a baby. I have huge amounts of respect for my dad and would like to honor him for help making me the man I am today. To make things worse, my dad's mom was killed by a drunk driver when he was 4 years old. I would feel that naming our son after her brother would be disrespectful to my dad. My fiancé knows the backstory to mine and my dad's life. I haven't told her that I feel it may be disrespectful to my dad, but still wants to name our son after her brother. I have offered up the idea in the past of her brother's name being our son's middle name. How can I approach her in a way that doesn't come off as callous or dismissive of her feelings for not wanting to name our son after her deceased brother? Too long didn't read. Fiancé wants to name our son after her brother who died while drunk driving. I don't want to or think it is a good idea. Honestly, I would just compromise and say you can't use either name. I'm not sure why you believe that she should compromise and not you, but really there should not be a compromise at all. Just give them both the middle names. Name him something else that makes him his own person, not someone else. When it comes to naming a child you have made together, you both should have unilateral veto power when it comes to any name. If you don't both agree 100%, then the name is no longer an option. Give your kid their own name. If you must honor someone, maybe use the middle name for that. That's what my family does and we continued it. If you can't agree on who to honor, then don't. We named our youngest after my ex's brother who died in a car accident at 18. He was racing a friend. I would not recommend it. In our case, being my ex's brother, my son had the same full name. He felt that he was under pressure his whole life. His grandmother pushed all this stuff about how perfect his uncle was down his throat. I admit, we all held out breaths a little till he turned 19. But the worst is that my ex-Phil lost his frickin' mind when my son started driving. He's a great kid. Has worked as a mechanic for the last 4 years, used to be the family business, pays his bills, is polite and helpful in every way. And that's not me being a blind mother. But his grandfather started at him when he turned 16, bullying him daily about his driving and his music and how he's working and on and on. He didn't tell me for 2 years, at which I told my, then, husband that he sorted this or I will. He just got his dad to retire rather than address the problem. He's now 21 and his grandfather hasn't stopped. We're all livid but my ex still won't address it. Long story, but there are so many things that will be an impact on your child. Many you won't even be aware of, or notice. Maybe use a middle name, but I would not be naming a child that way again. Thank you for your input. This is really helpful. I can see how naming someone after someone can put undue pressure on the kid. Sorry to hear about your son's grandfather. My 16F dad 45 meters, is abusive and doesn't really care about my emotions. Please give me advice. I am a mess and I need grown-up advice. I'm sorry the text looks ugly, I feel so bad right now and my head kinda hurts so the letters are blurry. I don't have a good relationship with my dad, never had. He was physically abusive when I was 7 to 10 and since then only verbally/emotionally abusive. He thinks I should forgive his physical abuse because it was years ago, but it made me so scared of ever having a real relationship with him or let myself be vulnerable. I like to think I'm overall a good kid. I get pretty good grades, I help around the house a lot, I don't smoke or do any dumb stuff, and I try to be mature and stop family fights. But my god, why can't he just see it that way? Why does he only scream at me when I make a mistake? Why can't he see I'm actually a good member of the family? Question mark. And he makes me cry so often and then he does the thing where he can't stand me crying and tries to hug me, but I just wanna cry more. AMD not let him touch me. He always says he'll change but he never does. He says he loves me but it never feels that way. He says he cares but again, when I opened up about my feelings, he got mad. We were doing nothing but talking for 15 minutes and stormed off and screamed again about how we waste our time. I'm so sorry for venting, but how the fuck do I even cope with this? My family knows. In my country even physical abuse is pretty normalized, and I cry every time and I just wish I wouldn't. I need advice from people who maybe have something similar. What are some good ways to cope? How do I fully convince myself not to cry when he screams at me? I'm sorry I'm a mess but I have no one to reach up to. Please again forgive me for not writing nicely, I'm sorry. I just need advice on how to feel better. And I'm sorry if I accidentally break any rules, it's my first post here I think. I've been in your situation up. My advice would be try to not think of the whys, you will never make sense of it and he will likely never change. Every time he screams, just walk away. Go for a walk, listen to music, create emotional distance between you and him so it doesn't hurt as much. Focus on school. Get a good job. Get out. Sending hugs X. I wish I could just walk away. But then he'll probably get even more angry and feel disrespected. But I know I should kind of stop trying to find reasons for the screaming. Raised by narcissists. Some people are just assholes who shouldn't have had kids. Unfortunately they often do anyway. You shouldn't blame yourself. Try not to, but it kind of gets to me a lot. I know I should be stronger than this but I can't and in wanna know how. Focus on school so you can move out as soon as possible. Even a dorm room is a good start. Ask your mom if you could talk to a therapist to help you sort and manage your emotions. Maybe even online. I tried to get a therapist in 9th grade, but my brother already had one and at the time we were tight on money. It's a good idea but somehow I feel like I'd just waste resources. What if someone needs that therapist more? I don't know. That's a lot for you to deal with. Your father is just an awful person. Of course you cry and of course you wouldn't want the person who is abusing you to comfort you. Your father is in every way a failure as a parent. Your parents are meant to make you feel safe, loved and supported. He makes you feel the opposite. I know you don't want to cry, but I think that the fact that you do is probably a good sign. It means you're still a person who is in touch with their emotions. It means you're still responding to your father's abuse in a normal way. If there's no way for you to leave or get help, I would try to focus on making a plan for when you will be able to leave and focus on that. The important thing to remember is that you're not found anything wrong. The abuse your father is putting you through has nothing to do with you, how good you are, how well you do in school or any of that. He's abusing you because he's a terrible person through and through, and he's putting the blame back on you so you will believe that you deserve it. Remember to never believe what he says about you, he's definitely wrong. I'm so sorry but the part about the crying really hit me. I just feel so weak when I cry, so I never thought it could ever be a good thing in a way. Just thank you for this new perspective.